Everybody, it's been exactly a year since I done my very first review on Gex, aka my favorite video game character of all time, on his game, Gex Enter the Gecko. And after keeping you Gex fans waiting for me to do another video on Gex, I'm going to do a much better review by doing an overview of the Gex Trilogy. Without further ado, it's tail time! You know, starting this review will be incomplete without reviewing the original Gex for the Windows, 3DO, Sega Saturn, and the Sony PlayStation. Many of you have requested me to do a review on this classic, so here it is. The game opens up with our main character Gex trying to watch TV, until a huge hand came out of the screen and grabbed Gex, pulling the young Gecko to his own TV. This portal was caused by Rez, the overlord of the media dimension, who had intended to make Gex his new mascot and conquer the world. Gex then ended up in the media dimension when there is an enormous dome with TVs acting as portals, and thus Gex has to collect TV remotes to advance to another TV until he reaches Rez and stop him from taking over the world. It has been so many years since I played this game. I only played the demo on Windows 95 when I was about 6 years old, and those days playing games on the PC was really great. Being able to play the full game when it was released on the PlayStation Store really gives me the opportunity to see everything that I missed out on this game. As you can see, the original Gex is a 2D platformer that's beyond being a standard platform game. Gex has the ability to jump in order to reach to platform, tail whip and tail bounce to attack enemies and break passageways, and stick out his tongue to swallow these spheres. And these spheres, which are power-ups, not only gives you health, but as well give you power-ups such as speed, shield, invincibility, spit fire, ice, and more, for a short period of time or when you get hit by an enemy. But what makes the original Gex different than any 2D platformer you can find is that he can stick and crawl on surfaces, either on the surface on the 2D side-scrolling viewpoint or on the background, as long as there is a wall in the background. Crawling on walls makes the adventure quite the experience because it enables him to do a lot of neat tricks, which puts the clever spin on the traditional platform game. What I love about the original Gex is how Crystal Dynamics designed the game. Each level is thematic to another TV genre. It really brings back so many memories to the cemetery levels, but continue on the game with New Two Land, Jungle Isle, and so much more. It's like finding out what you didn't know in your childhood. There is a lot of challenge in this game that kept the repetition of being a weakness, like testing your wall crawling, getting into bonus levels, and finding secrets. What keeps this game from being a typical point A to B 2D platformer is that before reaching your destination, you must need to find a remote and other important items right in the opening screen of the level. These remotes are the only key to get to the next level. Without it, you're forced to replay the level and collect it. There are different kinds of remotes. Regular ones for getting into another level, and colored ones are for getting into boss fights or another map of levels. Since this game is quite a challenge, you can find checkpoints, aka cameras, useful power-ups to swallow, and 100 fly coins to collect to get an extra continue. What makes Gex a very memorable game is his wisecrack voiceovers, because some games that has voiceovers gets repetitive and annoying. But it was a great decision of Crystal Dynamics to put funny comedian Dana Gould as the voice actor, which makes it amusing to hear Gex's parody quotes, references, and more, even if some were overused.
Hi, Detroit, Pearl of the Orient.
I sure did enjoy this game, but I do have a couple of issues that keep me from liking it more. First off is some of the levels that are in the same map are almost identical to each other, which feels like you're playing the same level. This does feel cheap, especially when you're expecting a new environment when you continue on. I know that there are a lot of 2D platformers that does this, but it gets to a point where you really want to get to a next world when you're stuck in that world for hours. Most of all, the biggest weakness of the game, the password system. Even though that these were the days that CD-ROMs had no save feature, they only give you a password if you complete a world to get to the next world. Granted, it's not the worst password system. I find it a flaw when you can barely see the password right in front of you. Is that a D or a P? One reason why I dislike this password system is because when you work very hard on trying to collect all those continues, once you restart the game and re-enter the password system, you start from scratch. And also, I don't see the point of having a scoreboard in this game, as it has little to no purpose whatsoever. Overall, and if you're a Gex fan and you haven't played this game, I do recommend this game. I give this game a 3 fingers out of 5. Even though it's a forgotten game, I wouldn't go far as say it's underrated because it does have its share of flaws that keeps the game from being great. Plus, I have been playing 2D platformers that are better than the original Gex. So on to the next game, Gex Enter the Gecko. Exactly a year ago, I've done a review on this game because it's my favorite game from my childhood. I wanted this to be my very first review, and I'm glad I did. In the 90s, games transforming to 3D were a huge innovation back then. After the successful release of Tomb Raider, Crystal Dynamics decided to make the Gex series to make a jump to 3D. And all I can say is, wow. Everything that the original Gex did, Gex Enter the Gecko did better, minus the wall crawling. I, as well as many others, remember Gex because of this game. I still stand by saying that Gex Enter the Gecko is unique and original because this 3D platformer keeps it thematic, with every level referencing to a movie/TV pop culture, and add that with more of Dana Gould's voice acting, and you got yourself one heck of a video game satire. Playing Enter the Gecko right after playing the original Gex feels like a breath of fresh air because you can select whatever level and mission you want, and after you complete that mission, you're sent right back to the media dimension, the home world, and select another level or the same level with another mission, just like Mario 64, or what I call it, Mission and Collect, which keeps it from playing almost the same level in a row. Your object of the game is to once again collecting remotes and get a certain number of them to advance to the next level. Also in the process is collecting coins, which are different in every level, but if you collect 30 of them, they'll change until you collect 90, which gives you a silver remote. And also you can get another silver remote in secret areas in each level. Also, Gex sometimes change to a different outfit to fit the mood of the level he's in. It's hard to say what my favorite levels are, but I'll never forget the charming Toon TV, the thrilling Scream TV, the exciting Kung Fu Theater, the groundbreaking Prehistory Channel, and the painful Rocket Channel. But I have to say that Circuit Central is my favorite because it's dark, but yet colorful and atmospheric. I always love putting Gex in the green light, which makes Gex start to glow, and changes the music to a rave synth score. Of course, there's more than one level for each zone in the home world, but at least Crystal Dynamics wasn't being cheap by making the levels with the same theme look exactly the same. And to top it all down are the bonus levels, which are really great to play. Even though Gex 64, the N64 version, doesn't have cutscenes like the PlayStation 1 version, it does have extra bonus levels and the Titanic level, which is more of an underwater level. Another thing that Enter the Gecko improved on is the boss fights, like battling the masked natives, Mushu Pork, battling Meta-Rez as Gexzilla, and the most difficult boss of all, Rez. You still have your tail whip, tongue swallow, and the ability to jump, but the tail bounce feels more active as you can bounce to another platform, and also the deadly karate kick, which is more effective than the tail whip. Also, they replaced those power-ups into flies from TV for health, continuous, and the ability to spit fire, which is kind of disappointing that the power-ups from the last game was so awesome, and there are only certain walls that Gex can crawl on, while in the last game you can crawl on any surface. Also, the series step to 3D did a mediocre job with the camera settings, that each of the 3 camera settings never really helps on narrow locations or getting to areas that the programmers never thought of. So out with the negatives, into the praising. I just wanted to say that this game feels more action-packed, as there are more threatening enemies to kill, and having a gecko fighting ninjas could not be any more epic. The presentation itself is what really shines the game, not because of nostalgia, but the music and design replicates the awesomeness of the 90s, similar to the NES games. Even though I never grew up with the system at the time, you could just feel that 80s nostalgia, just like the 90s games with Gex Enter the Gecko. Even though it's totally forgotten in the gaming industry today, every aspect, especially with the flaws, has that grounded feeling of a Saturday morning cartoon, which is what we used to have in the 90s. It's just that so much has changed in the gaming industry that going back to Gex Enter the Gecko has that inner child of mine feel that colorful cartoonish world that we rarely have in mainstream video games. That's why this game is placed at number 6 in my top 20 3D platformers. A year ago, I gave this game a 5 fingers out of 5 because I thought that was my highest score. But since this game is an important phase of my childhood, and still today is enjoyable to play, you may not agree with it, but I have to give this game a 6 fingers out of 5 for that 90s colorful cartoonish satire atmosphere that's really hard to find nowadays. For more information on the game, check out my full review on Gex Enter the Gecko. Now on the next game, Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko. What surprises me about the Gex series is that each installment they make is a dramatic change and different from another game. In terms of atmosphere, Deep Cover Gecko is very different than Enter the Gecko. They have the same satire spirit, but the best example I can give to both of them is Enter the Gecko is cartoony and colorful to Animaniacs, and Deep Cover Gecko is more of a satire and mature-oriented to Batman the Animated Series. The series took a darker step, but still remaining the colorful parody atmosphere that we all love from Enter the Gecko. The reason why Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko is more darker than Enter the Gecko is that the home world from Gex's mansion to the beach, garden, and the city has a dark tone where it's almost like parodying Batman, and also the enemies are much more nastier and more intimidating than before. One main reason why this game is more mature is Agent Extra, played by Playboy Playmate Marlise Andrada from Baywatch. Her role was to be rescued from being kidnapped by Rez. She constantly makes cutscenes communicating with Gex with suggestive themes and sexual inside jokes. Still to this day, I never skip one cutscene from this game. At the time, I wasn't allowed to play rated T games and couldn't play this until Christmas 1999, but some of my friends got the N64 port of this game, but it removed the cutscenes and altered some of the levels just to make it rated E. There are new features in the game like the paw prints, where if you collect enough of them, they'll give you an extra hit point, bonus coins for no other particular reasons than to get to another bonus level, and the ability to glide, with certain outfits that Gex is wearing in each level, which really is useful when reaching to long distances. Another big improvement is that Dana Gould added 1,000 more wisecracks for Gex, which some of them I really remember, and some of the quotes I never heard before whenever I'm playing this game. The parodies and references really is a major step up with the levels like the Mystery TV, Gangster TV, Superhero Show, Fairy Tale TV, Buccaneer Program, Western Station, Army Channel, Tut TV were all great, even though those levels was used once in one homeworld and never was used again to another homeworld. But what I most remember this game for is the Anime Channel. The music itself is so energetic and groundbreaking, and the designs parody 90s anime perfectly. I mean, this is not only the best level in the whole series, but probably my favorite level in video games, period. Every time I play Gex 3, I rush as fast as I can just to get to the anime level because almost everything else kind of falls flat. With new characters like Alfred being annoying, the bonus levels being worse than the previous Gex games, and some of the others like the Holiday Broadcasting and Mythology Network were levels I couldn't enjoy. And also there is little to no improvement with the camera settings, which is the reason why most people like me prefer Enter the Gecko over Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko. I'm not saying Gex 3 is a bad game. In fact, it's a really great 3D platformer, with Gex 2 having 3 different kinds of missions like getting from point A to B, destroy 3 targets, and more. Gex 3 has tons of new missions that keeps away from the issue of repetition, such as snowboarding, firing cannons at ships, and so much more that's really fun. Crystal Dynamics literally made this game bigger than the last installment, keeping the game from being too short, and the challenges in this game are amped up, being another game that puts your platforming skills to the test. It's sad to see that this is the last Gex game of the series, and it's debatable if Crystal Dynamics canceled Gex 4 in the making. Overall, this is one of my favorite games as a kid, and I still haven't changed my mind since then. This game still remains a 5 fingers out of 5. For more information of this game, check out my review on Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko. I'm still quite surprised that Gex 3 made it into the PlayStation Store and Gex 2 didn't, which is questionable why the series is incomplete in the PlayStation Store. Overall, the Gex series has been forgotten in the gaming industry, but not forgotten to me, to the ones who love it, and to everyone who's been watching my Gex videos. And my Gex 4 Must Be Made video is still my most viewed video on my channel, having so many people leaving out ideas for the next Gex installment. And since it has been posted, I have never given up seeing Gex 4 in the light of day. If only if Crystal Dynamics could stop milking out the Tomb Raider series, there still might be a chance that the Gex series might make a return, as to other forgotten titles like Duke Nukem and more, already making their return. I've done my best to give tribute to the Gex series, and I hope you all enjoyed it. So give a thumbs up, post a comment, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Till then, I'm the Gex, and it's Tale Time!